Welcome back to the channel, Cowboys Nation. We've got a packed breakdown for you today that dives into everything you need to know about the Dallas Cowboys' biggest winners and losers coming out of the 2025 NFL Draft. There's been a wave of reactions around the league, but none more passionate than the ones coming out of Dallas. Whether you think the Cowboys knocked this draft out of the park or left some meat on the bone, one thing's for certain: the landscape of this team has shifted, and several players are feeling the heat or catching fire because of it. We're talking about who's rising, who's fading, and how this entire draft affects names you know well, like Jalen Tolbert, Mazi Smith, and Damone Clark. Stick around, because we're breaking it all down with insight, perspective, and a little bit of that classic Cowboys drama that keeps this team at the center of the NFL spotlight. The 2025 NFL Draft is officially in the books, and for the Dallas Cowboys, it marked a turning point in strategy and identity. After years of playing it safe and sticking closely to best player available formulas, this year's approach felt more targeted. It wasn't just about building for the future, it was about addressing glaring needs now while also sending a message to some of the young players who have been waiting for their breakout moments. The Cowboys added key talent at running back, wide receiver, offensive line, and linebacker, and it's clear that the front office was looking to create competition across the board. That competition is going to produce some winners, and unfortunately some losers. Let's begin with a look at one of the most talked about names of the offseason and how his status has changed dramatically following the draft: wide receiver Jalen Tolbert. Now in his third season, Tolbert came into 2025 looking like a potential breakout candidate. With Brandon Cooks aging and questions about long-term depth behind CeeDee Lamb, the door appeared wide open for Tolbert to seize a more prominent role. But then came the draft. The Cowboys used one of their early picks on a highly regarded wide receiver who profiles similarly to Tolbert's: same body type, same skill set, but with fresher legs and more recent production. That's not just a depth addition. That's a challenge, loud and clear. The Cowboys essentially told Tolbert, "You haven't locked anything up yet." And that's a hard pill to swallow for a guy who's been grinding to get noticed. The drafting of a new receiver doesn't automatically knock Tolbert off the roster, but it does complicate his path to regular playing time. Training camp will be absolutely crucial for him. He's got the trust of some of the coaches, and he's shown flashes, but now he's got to put it all together and outperform a rookie who's going to get every opportunity to impress. In this kind of scenario, it's not enough to just be solid. Tolbert needs to stand out in every practice, in every preseason game, in every rep. Otherwise, he risks becoming just another guy on the depth chart, and for a former third-round pick entering a contract-critical year, that's not where you want to be. Switching gears to another name that's seen his stock fluctuate: Mazi Smith. The former first-round defensive tackle came into the league with high expectations and has been a bit of a mystery ever since. There's no denying the raw talent is there. His power, explosiveness, and upside have flashed at times. But consistency has been his Achilles heel. Heading into the 2025 draft, there were whispers that the Cowboys might look to reinforce the defensive line, and they did just that. By selecting a powerful, two-gap run stuffer early in the draft, the Cowboys signaled that they're no longer willing to wait for Mazi Smith to figure it out on his own. This new addition isn't just a rotational piece. He's a real threat to Mazi's role, particularly on early downs. Smith's inability to dominate against the run has frustrated the coaching staff, and this draft pick puts a spotlight on that shortcoming. In essence, the Cowboys are saying, we need answers now, not potential. And while Smith still has the chance to reclaim the narrative, especially if he shows up to camp in shape and motivated, his window for establishing himself as a foundational piece is narrowing fast. Defensive line rotations are deep, and reps are limited. Mazi Smith went from being a future cornerstone to a question mark with something to prove. On the flip side, one of the biggest winners of this draft might just be linebacker Damone Clark. Unlike Tolbert and Smith, Clark appears to have benefited from what the Cowboys didn't do. Many analysts expected the Cowboys to go hard at the linebacker position early in the draft, especially considering Leighton Vander Esch's departure and ongoing concerns about durability at that position. But the Cowboys held back. They added depth, sure, but they didn't go after a marquee name. That, my friends, is a vote of confidence in Damone Clark. Clark's 2024 season was quietly impressive. He led the team in tackles for much of the year and became a dependable presence in both base and nickel packages. He plays with high energy, has sideline-to-sideline speed, and brings a sense of urgency to the middle of the field that this defense desperately needs. By not drafting over him, the Cowboys are giving Clark the keys to the linebacker core. That's a massive opportunity for a young player who has already shown that he can rise to the occasion. He's now in line to be a defensive leader and potentially wear the green dot on his helmet as the on-field communicator. That's not just trust, that's a statement about who the Cowboys see as part of their core. Another subtle but significant winner from this draft is quarterback Dak Prescott. Yes, the Cowboys didn't draft a quarterback in the early rounds, and yes, there were some rumors leading into the draft about Dallas possibly looking toward the future at the position. But when the dust settled, Prescott remained unchallenged. The Cowboys reinforced the offensive line, added weapons in the passing game, and brought in a more dynamic running back option. All of those moves signal a clear direction. Dallas is still all in on Dak. That matters not just in terms of morale but in terms of contract negotiations and team culture. Prescott knows he's the guy, and the front office just gave him a better toolkit to work with. Of course, there are other players feeling the ripple effects of the draft. Take running back Rico Dowdle, for example. Heading into the draft, Dowdle was in line to compete for a larger role in the post-Tony Pollard era. But then the Cowboys went and added not one but two running backs with explosiveness, size, and third down potential. That's a tough break for Dowdle, who has battled injuries and limited opportunities his entire career. Now he's got fresh competition, and not the kind you can just ignore. These aren't camp bodies, these are legitimate threats to his roster spot. On the offensive line, Tyler Smith emerges as a steady winner. Despite some speculation that the Cowboys might shake things up or look to find a long-term left tackle, they instead opted to reinforce other spots, which indicates they're comfortable with Smith as a key piece moving forward. His versatility, the ability to play both guard and tackle, gives him job security, and the draft strategy suggests the Cowboys value that flexibility. For a young lineman who's already shown he can handle tough assignments, this draft was a quiet nod of approval from the front office. Now, let's zoom out a bit and look at the larger implications of this draft strategy. The Cowboys didn't just draft players, they sent messages. They signaled that development windows are closing. They let underperformers know that the team isn't going to wait around forever. At the same time, they rewarded players who have shown flashes of potential by not drafting over them. This kind of internal competition can either light a fire or cause players to shrink under pressure. The 2025 training camp will be one of the most competitive in recent memory, and that's exactly what head coach Mike McCarthy wants. He's fighting for his own job, too, and that urgency trickles down to every position group. One of the under-the-radar draft picks who could end up having a big impact is a versatile safety who also plays slot corner. That immediately puts pressure on second-year players who haven't carved out defined roles yet. Names like Israel Mukumu and Marquise Bell are now officially on notice. The Cowboys want hybrid players who can cover, tackle, and contribute on special teams. If you can't do all three, your roster spot is in jeopardy. Even on special teams, the ripples are being felt. New draft additions at linebacker and defensive back bring special teams value, and that means veterans who only contribute in that phase of the game might be phased out. Guys who've made a living being core special teamers suddenly find themselves in competition with younger, faster, and cheaper options. It's the harsh reality of the NFL, but it's also how good teams stay good by keeping the back end of the roster competitive. The tight end group, led by Jake Ferguson, remains mostly unchanged, which is another win. Despite some mock drafts linking the Cowboys to high-profile tight ends, they passed a sign that they believe in what they have. That gives Ferguson and guys like Peyton Hendershot and Luke Schoonmaker a longer leash to develop and solidify their roles. It also reflects a broader confidence in Kellen Moore's offense, which doesn't rely heavily on tight ends as primary pass catchers but instead asks them to be versatile role players. And let's not forget about the coaching staff. Defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer comes away as a low-key winner. The Cowboys gave him new tools to work with, particularly in the front seven, without overhauling the secondary or forcing scheme changes. That means Zimmer gets to implement his vision without being hamstrung by personnel mismatches. Expect the defense to play faster, hit harder, and show more flexibility in how they attack offenses. Zimmer's track record suggests he'll maximize the new talent, especially if the young linemen and linebackers can get up to speed quickly. All in all, the 2025 NFL Draft was a clear statement of intent from the Dallas Cowboys. They want to win now, but they're also not afraid to churn the roster and make bold choices. For guys like Jalen Tolbert and Mazi Smith, that means it's now or never. You're either producing or you're getting passed by. For others like Damone Clark and Tyler Smith, the draft served as a validation of the hard work they've already put in. And for the coaching staff, it means more weapons, more flexibility, and more pressure to deliver. Cowboys Nation, this is where it gets exciting. Training camp is going to be electric. Position battles are already brewing, and the stakes have never been higher. Every rep, every practice, every preseason snap is going to matter. The front office made their moves, now it's on the players to respond. If they do, the Cowboys could be looking at one of their most complete rosters in years. If not, expect more changes to come fast and furious. Either way, we'll be here to break it all down for you. Thanks for tuning in to today's breakdown. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the winners and losers from the 2025 NFL Draft for the Dallas Cowboys, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an update. Let us know in the comments who you think came out on top and who's in trouble. Until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and go Cowboys!